touch my face first. So I have been exposed to COVID, and it's a lot of food for thought. I am going to do full lockdown for 14 days. And, you know, the sad part, I mean, these are really minor things. But in the little picture, so I can't go to the pool for 2 weeks, and I can't roller skate in public. On the bright side, I do have a small roller rink out here, the Molly Ivins Pavilion. But I wanted to talk about, I am not a fan of scared straight tactics. I'm not. But I'm going to go a little bit in that direction this morning. I don't really think I'm going to probably persuade anyone who's not wearing a mask or, practicing safety to do that. But whatever, I love a struggle. It's my hobby. So I'm going to just tell you kind of what's been running through my head since I got exposed. I took notes because sometimes I need to do that. First of all, I just wanted to share, my temperature actually runs about 97.1. I don't know, fun fact, I run low. I haven't had any symptoms at all. The odds, the exposure that I had happened outside. And I don't remember if I had a mask on at that time. I was talking to a friend of mine. I know we were apart, but now I'm like, were we 6 feet apart? And I know that statistically, because we were outside and we were definitely several feet apart, statistically, the odds are pretty slim. But that doesn't keep a worrier from worrying, right? So anyways, and my exposure happened, so I got tested for COVID on Wednesday. I just did that as a precautionary measure. You can get free testing through the city of Austin, and I've done some weddings and stuff, and I stand far apart from people, but I just thought, I have an opportunity to take this test. I don't have to study for it. I'm going to go ahead and do it. So I had the test on Wednesday, and I'm just going to give you an example of what it's like. So pretend this is your nose, this watermelon's your nose, and this here's the swab, and basically, you drive through this. It's really crazy how they have it set up, and then and you have to show your ID through your window several times, and then you finally get to the station, and you roll down your window. They give you a Kleenex, you blow your nose, and then you roll your window up, blow your nose, roll your window down, and then the nurse she gets the swab in your nose, and she just goes like that for what feels like I don't know, an hour, and then you're done, and then you go home and you wait for your results. So I haven't got my results yet. I'm expecting them sometime, probably by Monday. But the thing is, even if I get a negative, I was exposed to it after I took the test. So I don't understand how this test stuff works. So now do I schedule another test? And if I do schedule another test, do I have to wait 2 weeks? By the way, I'm not asking for unsolicited advice. I'm just showing you what's going on in there. So here comes the scared straight part, right? I, did some future tripping, and I'm like, well, what if I do have this thing? How's it going to affect me? And, worst case scenario is I get it, I'm on a ventilator, and then I die. And so I called a friend of mine, and I said, will you take my dogs? That's the first thing I think of, right? I got 17 animals out here, and I have all this stuff, what's going to happen to all this stuff? And then I thought about, do I know where my will is? Do I have a will? Yes, I have a will, and I know right where it is, and I already told my son where my will is, back when this whole thing started. And I know it seems like, not hyperbolic, but whatever, but you know what, I just want to make sure I have shit in order, it's just a good thing to have shit in order. So, I went to the scary places, and the scariest place that I could go, and if I am able to convince one single person to wear a mask because I'm telling these stories, then it's worth telling the stories. And these are hard stories for me to tell. But when I think about the potential of this thing, have you ever seen somebody on a respirator? I have. I've had 3 experiences with people on respirators. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that now. And so if it's going to freak you out, you might want to just stop the video. First of all, Bob was on a ventilator more than once. And after he was, he had 3 heart attacks in 6 weeks. And I think it may have been during the second episode that they intubated him. And after he got out of the hospital, he told me, I never, ever, ever want to be intubated again. And then he had another heart attack. And we were standing in the house, and I had called the ambulance, and I looked at him, I'm like, we got to make a decision right now. And before he could answer, like he just had this wild, wild fear in his eyes. And before he could answer, the ambulance came, and they took him away, and they got to the hospital before me, and then Ellen got there before me, and then she was really frustrated with them for intubating him. But what she didn't know is that he and I had this conversation. It's in my book, The Tao of Bob, which I'm not plugging the book, I'm just saying it's all in there. And if you want to see like the wildest fear in somebody's eyes, visit somebody who's on a ventilator, and I'll tell you what, it is not a good experience. So the other 2 stories are even harder for me to tell, but I will tell them. A lot of you know that last spring in 2020? In 2019, my son's father, who's a very close friend of mine, had what's called a widowmaker heart attack. He actually died for 5 minutes and was revived. And then he was in the hospital in intensive care, and he was on life support for, probably a week or so. And when I went to see him, there was a machine keeping his heart beating, and there was a machine keeping his lungs working. And it was fucking horrible. Although I'm really grateful for the technology that kept him alive. So I've carried this story with me for a long time. Not many people know it. But I was in the ICU waiting room, freaked out, and it seemed very, 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 very likely that he was going to die. So I was kind of there to say goodbye. And somebody else who knew him came out to the waiting room. I did not know this person. And this person said to me, this person was just going on and on about how he doesn't have any sympathy or empathy. And it dawned on me that she was talking about my son. She was suggesting that because my son did not fly down from New York to be at his father's bedside, that my son was a piece of shit. Really. Now, of course, Mama Bear mode came in, and I just wanted to punch that cunt in the face. I really did. I just want to kill her. Here's what she didn't know. I try to cultivate compassion. I still haven't really cultivated any compassion for her, just like this much. Here's what she didn't know. I raised my son by myself. With the help of friends. His father wasn't around. His father, he was dying of alcoholism. And I would take Henry to see his father in St. Louis. And often what would happen was he would stop drinking when we got up there. Then he would have a seizure, and then he'd be in the hospital. So my son has all these childhood memories of his father in the hospital, just freaked out, not recognizing us. It was very, very, very traumatic for him. And his choice, when his father was on a respirator, to not come down, it was informed by a couple of things. One thing it was informed by was he had a happy memory of his father visiting him a couple of months before, and that's what he wanted to hang on to. Number 2, he's an adult and he gets to make boundaries, and I really respected him for that. And number 3, and this is super important, and if I can convince anybody to wear a mask, this is the part I really, really want you to listen to. Not only does my son, I'm convinced, have PTSD around seeing his father in the hospital, but when Henry was born, he very nearly died. I gave birth to him at home in St. Louis, and he had to get rushed to Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital, and he was on a respirator. And if you have ever seen a brand new baby on a respirator, if that doesn't convince you, to wear a mask or to do whatever you need to do to not be on a respirator, I don't know what will. But I know that I have so much trauma from that memory. I swear it's part of the reason I only had one kid. And I know that even though he was only like a day old, he spent his first 5 or 6 days on a ventilator. I know that he has a trauma memory of that. So this is a super long ramble this morning. But when I got the news that I was exposed, I go to this worst case place of like, I don't want to be on a ventilator. I don't. And so I'm going to just do lockdown. I'm going to take really good care of myself. I'm going to be grateful that I don't have any symptoms. And did I have anything else on here? Oh, I think I wanted to end on a positive note, which is I'm going to get a lot of knitting done. I have Zoom. I have food. I have an appetite. I have my dogs. And these are crazy times. So I'm beseeching you, never the boss of you, but please just wear a mask. It's kind of a magical thing, just a little piece of cloth. Such a minor thing, and it could potentially save you and save other people. Okay, I hope you have a good day. Here we go, lockdown. Take it easy, y'all.
Hey y'all, thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you'll like and subscribe to my channel. And if you like this episode, I hope that you'll copy this link, share it with a friend, paint it on a wall, put it on your social media. That'd be great. Thanks a million. Take it easy.